Hi guys. Today finds me in a pretty different state of mind from I think any of my previous videos. And I do want to briefly acknowledge that the video that I shared yesterday, so I suppose I'll leave it in that order in the playlist, although we'll see. That video was from, I think I want to say it was 6 days before I posted it, but it was out of chronological order. And the reason that I chose to do that, I think initially when I shot it, I thought it was just going to be something I threw out. And what it really functioned as, because I'm not even sure that I would stand by all of the content if I watched it right now. And I actually did not watch it all the way back through before I posted it yesterday. I think as a historical artifact of what was going on early in this journey, kind of closer to the beginning of January, and we are now at the 13th, I think as a historical artifact, it has some value. But what I wanted to share today was a little bit of what's unfolded, because to tell you the truth, it's been so much that I still need to process it. And at this point, it would be appropriate to show you why, okay? So I have basically, for most of the last 2 weeks, been essentially, I feel like I've been channeling a massive amount of energy. And for a while, it was bouncing around inside of me, especially in here. It was a very uncomfortable, frightening, kind of suffocating and drowning feeling. I felt like what was going through me was an electrical surge quite a lot. In fact, I would experience a physical sensation of tingling, especially in my face, but sometimes like my head up here, and my hands felt like they were shaking all the time. But if I looked at them and did this, they didn't appear to be. Well, maybe then they did, but you know, I would show them to someone else. They didn't appear to be shaking. But I felt very just spent and overwhelmed. And so I did discuss previously in this series about how I was going to be using my skills I've acquired over the last, decade, no, closer to 2 decades, just to kind of bring order to chaos. So I want to show you a little bit of what I actually retained of the initial chaos, although I will say at this point it is mostly reined in. I've got a little pile of what I call short lists. These are to keep focus in the short term, but these are in the paper recycling. And what I had done was kind of, as things became irrelevant, they would get commuted to a new list that had only pertinent information on it, so there wasn't all this noise in the signal of just stuff that had already been done, but that at one point needed to be done. And I'll show you now. This is what I do in the short term if something is complete, so that it doesn't attract my attention. So I say this to illustrate to you that what I'm about to show you is a little bit of evidence into what my mind has felt like. And I can think of other places I could draw artifacts of that, such as my Google Photos albums. I have been screenshotting a lot of things and sort of taking notes on those images. So I actually need to go in and basically do an information defrag there. But so what I have done even more, because this is kind of, it feels like the right medium for it, and it's what I usually kind of begin with before I digitize things, if I even do digitize them. This is kind of a glimpse into my mind right now. Let me see if I can find an appropriately chaotic page. Oh, 1 second. I thought of where I need to look. It would be my journal. Yeah. So this is the system that I was using at the very beginning of it. And I'll show you first what it looked like prior to this experiment. I also keep cute little love notes from, we send each other. So this is, pretty normal. This was November 14th. That's, the handwriting's pretty conforming, and you see, and I kind of, it just looks like a regular ass journal, right? But then we get to, let's see, what day is this? That's when I started stature. Well, I already flipped through and showed you how many pages it was, but if I were to show you, this is right when I designed the quarter, and I had that big, I want to say a passel of papers, but I feel like I'm using that wrong and I don't know. But when I initially did a Q1 2020 plan and had this notion of meal plan, had this notion of and food prep and the workout regimen and the 1 sentence of finish a day, I had this, super crisp, smart goals, if you know what I mean by that, like kind of an outlook. And so this is very like clean and linear. But it begins to get more chaotic. So if I were to just flip through, I mean, I'm not going to bore the shit out of you, but there start to be colors that I'm using to kind of code it so that I can glance at the paper and tell what actually matters. The different colors have different action meanings as well. But so I'm trying to leave space because I would come back in and put notes, and clearly I didn't go back to that, which is fine. But it's probably by the end, I'm even writing in the back cover. So it got to the place where I was just getting overwhelmed. There was just too much information. I mean, you see these as well. So by now, this is on the shelf now, and I'm not referring to that because what I did was I took the things that were actionable and that I could, incorporate into my days going forward. And more or less, they're captured in a system such as this. This is like, I've called it various things in the past, but it's based on the Eisenhower matrix. So, you've got the urgent things and the important things. And I sort of kind of use the quadrants to mean that, but this would be my master to-do list, essentially. And so things that came out of that were actionable, if they weren't directly related to the project that I think I'll tell you about today, but maybe not, then they went here. This is the stuff like, you've got to go mail these letters, you got to pay customs for this, you got to, buy the following things. It's that type of a list. So I would say that one step away from the chaos of that notebook would be this kind of thing, because you see that it does have, it's really pretty reined in, and all these different colors mean something. But and a little bit more on this sort of intermediate step of organizing things would be, I had this creative writing group. That's my new statement of my updated creative writing mission. So, I couldn't keep the first one. And then the other members' materials that I was able to get from them to review. So this is like a little better. I would still say, though, it's not what I'm looking for. Oh, and I forgot to show you this is what I get for not putting things in a logical linear order on the table. This is some more of the chaos. Just, excuse me. So you see there's just a lot of writing, a lot of, a glut of information. It's too much. This was notes for one of my videos, and I just, so I condensed it down to this intermediate set of materials that I just showed you. And then this right now that I'm about to show you is kind of where I've landed with, the project materials. So in brief, I'll tell you that what I've discovered I'm doing is I have picked back up where I left off in a rather substantial and ambitious project from about 2011. And so it's requiring a good bit of planning. I'm wondering what in the hell I did with I must have taken it in the other room. Well, okay, apparently I was not really wanting to show you the outline for this project, and that is just fine. It can wait. But what I'm doing is I'm aggregating my notes elsewhere in here. And these are the notes that I'm using specifically for that project. Now I have, there's 3 notebooks actually. So this is like there's type of information for this, a type of information for this. And then I've got a little portable, it's like this size notebook that fits easily in any of my bags, doesn't weigh much. And if I write something in that I want to, reorganize into here, I can just copy it or, cut it out, glue it, paste it. I've done all these things before. It all works. So, yeah, I'm a little fascinated by where did I put this outline, because I guess on some level I didn't really want anybody even seeing it, because I guess I know that it's still in a conceptual phase. And granted, it has been in a conceptual phase before, but that was like at this point almost 10 years ago. So what wants to come out of me is a little different. It's actually very recognizably similar, but it has changed some, and I'm sort of shaping it. But yeah, so now you know what the project is and sort of how I'm reining it in. I guess that's really what I was going to share today. And it comes to this theme again of there was a lot of chaos, and I had to figure out how I was going to deal with it. And there was discomfort involved with the chaos, but I think it's implicit in showing you that was just too much for my brain. I also have had trouble pacing myself. But I'll say that was not really my fault, in so much as I was not attempting to attack the tasks, and I wasn't trying to call down the muse and get all the ideas that you're seeing here. That was almost like intrusive thoughts to compare it to PTSD symptoms, which I've got some familiarity with. So it was really not something I sought out, but fortunately for me, it was something that I did have a workable strategy to deal with. And I hope I'm not speaking too soon to say, I believe at this point that I feel my feet on the ground again. I think that what I'll be able to do from here is, as I said, kind of improve the focus of that outline. And as I go through all the various sources of content that I already have for it, and start organizing those to just make sure that I'm accounting for everything and see what I want to cut, if I can tell that yet. But I do hope that I'll be able to keep up the content release plan and schedule. I'm not going to hold myself to it, actually, because I feel like what has emerged from this challenge is just so different from what the challenge started out thinking it would be, and I want to go with it, because all this chaos and all, it has forced a present tense focus for me that I swear to God I've never really had before. I wouldn't have even known what it would feel like. They say, if you're looking into the past, you're some form of suffering. If you're looking in the future, you're some form of suffering, like you're anxious or you're regretful. In the reverse order, respectively. So, I'm in that place now where it's like, okay, what needs to happen right now? I likened it in some text that I was writing, I think yesterday or maybe the day before, that it's like just-in-time resource management, if you are a project manager or are familiar with that concept. And the idea is that you don't plan too far in advance by, for example, stockpiling resources for a project, if it's a physical type project. The idea that you, for example, are almost out of food or you don't have food for dinner, you go to the shop right before you cook dinner. You supply yourself with what you need as it arises. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to do that financially probably with this project, because I really don't want to let this go until it feels right to let it go. Let me put it that way, because I have been seeking a job in my career field, and I'm still pretty open to pursuing that. But truth be told, whatever's going on right now with this project, which has wanted to be birthed for a decade, and at some point I may tell you why, but not today. That just feels like my legacy work. It feels like my life's work. It feels like what matters, as opposed to making money. I mean, we have to pay the bills, and I don't want to lean on Sampo, said his name. I don't want to lean on him because it's not fair. I think it's only fair that I contribute in a way that I feel proud of. But as of right now, it's going to be real hard for me to say yes to somebody if they offer me a job, unless it's just like gonna dovetail nicely with what I'm doing. And actually, I may be able to pull that off. But my point is just, I have this new sort of focus, including the present tense sort of, focus. It's just, I'm here now. And I certainly have a notion of things that I want to have happen in the future, but I'm not getting particular about it. I'm following inspiration. And that being said, I am now inspired to press the red button again. So I bid you adieu, be well. And this is not a Donald Trump shirt, it's Ronald Jenkins. Check him out, he's amazing.